2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, 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 and welcome. It's the 19th of August, and it's a dreary, foggy, wet Monday, which is after how many innings was that? After an 18-inning Pirate loss. It's just not good. They're looking wobbly, guys. Well, what else is new? All right. Oh, Lord. You know, this show does not have to be about talking about the news. It does not. And I'm telling myself that now because the news is so constantly depressing. So let's sort of like go around the edges a little bit for a while, especially since it's a Nicky day, and take it a little bit easier for a second or two. That's all I got for a second or two. What's the word? I've thought about, I've wrestled with. That's a little too strong. I've engaged in idle thinking about getting a bicycle for, just pleasure and for exercise. And I had a bike before I moved to Pittsburgh. I had a beauty. We're talking now ancient history. And I brought it here, and then I got rid of it because I took one look at Pittsburgh and said, I ain't riding a bike here. And this would be 1981. There were no bike lanes. There were just Pittsburgh's, crazy and often narrow streets and drivers who did not give way for bicycles. The streets were in not great repair, and let's not even begin to talk about the up and the down and the up and the down and all those hills. And I thought, well, heck, I just don't think I'd feel safe. I was quite sure I wouldn't feel safe. And I am somebody who almost was killed in a bicycle accident when I was a child, and still bear the scars from that horrific accident. So I have a little more trepidation about bicycles than some folks do. But I keep toying with it. And what constantly stops me is, first of all, the whole biking scene now. I'm loath to put on a helmet because when I rode a bike, I never had a helmet on. And in fact, I was not, when I had my almost fatal bicycle accident, if I'd been wearing a helmet, it would have made no difference, I suspect, because I didn't fall off the bike and hit my head. My head merely went through a window. Now, it's conceivable that with a helmet on, it would have been too big to fit through that. It was one of those little, almost 9 by 12 windows that you see in a garage door, one after the other. I don't know if maybe the helmet would have saved me because I would have just clunked it wouldn't have gone through. I don't know. At any rate, there's a helmet issue. I don't like wearing a helmet. First of all, I feel like a geek. Second of all, it ruins my hair. And I just hate them. The other thing is the bicycle seats. How can anybody sit on one of those things? It's the equivalent of a thong. Not that I want to talk about my behind, but my behind is ample. Always has been. One of those bicycle seats is, there's nothing that most of my behind would not be on the seat. It'd be like folding over. And it's so uncomfortable. It numbs you. So that sitting on one for a little while, your whole bottom gets numb. I can't stand them. So, and I also hate the way they make bikes now in that you have to essentially put yourself on one of those hard thong seats, and then you have to lean over. It's the most uncomfortable position imaginable. I ain't Lance Armstrong, thank God. This isn't the way I want to ride a bike. I'm not in a race. So it's uncomfortable as hell, and I don't understand what they did to bikes. When I had a bike as a child, it had a nice seat that sort of, was a big wide thing. You sat on it, and it was comfortable. And you didn't lean over your handlebars. You sat upright, and your bars were up there. So you look a little more like like the witch at the beginning of Wizard of Oz as she's going by the window. Ho, 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 I'm your little dog. You're sitting straight up, and that's a civilized way to ride a bike. So I said, I can't, I won't. I hate the whole scene. I even hate gears. Just give me a big old fat tired bike with a big wide seat that I can sit up straight on and meander around. Of course, that's difficult in Pittsburgh because of the up and down and up and down. So consequently, I have not. And I do know they do make bikes. I have seen them because I've gone looking for it. They do make bikes with these big, nice, wide seats that you can sit up on, that even have a little basket in the front, like a bike should be. That even have fenders on the back. Love bikes like that. But if they don't have gears, getting up and down the hills can be a bit of a drag around here. Well, so enter a new kind of bike that has a little motor on it so that you can stick it into motorized gear, I guess, for going up the hills. Now, that sounds like the best bet for me. I'm just afraid that I would abuse that and consequently get no exercise whatsoever. At any rate, I say all this because I was heartened. This was a long preamble to tell you I was heartened to read a piece in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend about a growing movement in the U.S. And in the U.S., it's already been in Europe. And it's essentially called the slow bike movement. And this is a movement, and there are clubs to join. I don't know if there's one here in Pittsburgh, of people who, like me, want to ride for enjoyment. You want to ride and look around. You don't want to wear spandex. You don't want to wear gloves. You don't want one of those fancy, dancy, uncomfortable as holy heck bicycles. You want an old-fashioned bike with a fat seat, and you want to ride like you used to, So there are a growing number of people who are turning their backs on the vast majority of bikers now, who are the spandex, serious folks who annoy you when you're driving a car. Those people. So I'm thinking I just might, if there's enough of folks around here. There's even something called the Slow Bike Race that's held every year in Newburyport, Massachusetts. And the way that race works is the last one to cross the finish line wins. And it's a very short track. And so the skill in this race is who can literally go the slowest, who can keep from fall. You cannot let your foot touch the ground. If your foot touches the ground, if you're not able to balance the bike and stay up, you're out, you're gone. You have to stay in your lane. But the slowest person wins the race. Isn't that great? They were talking about this, a woman who was urging on, or not quite. Her boyfriend was screaming, "Go, Manfred! Go! Go! Wait! No! Don't go! Manfred! Don't go!" So, I mean, that might be taking it a little too far, but there's a slow food movement. Because we Americans eat too fast. We do everything too fast. So there's an effort some people take a long time, eat in a meaningful way where you're tasting what's in your mouth. You're just slow it down. So there's a slow food movement. There's also a slow travel movement, which is not about jetting from here to there and then running around like a crazy person, but just taking your time to try to recapture or time the way it used to be, which was a lot slower. There was a map that I saw of how long it took in various years to, let's say, get from New York to Chicago. And how we complain these days if getting from New York to Chicago takes, I sat in the airport, blah, 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 I was on the tarmac and blah, 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 blah. And you still get there, in the same day. Whereas it took 6 weeks. It took 6 weeks to get there in 1820. And that had dropped down to 3 weeks by, I can't remember, 1860 something. 1880. I don't know. Well, I guess you had to wait for the trains. So slow it down. And the slow bicycle movement that's a move. I'm not a big joiner, but that's a movement I could maybe get into. It is very popular in Europe, where when Europeans ride bikes a lot more than we do. And when I was in Amsterdam, one of the things that you can't fail to notice is, first of all, bikes outnumber cars, bikes outnumber pedestrians, bikes are the way to get around. And the bikes there have big, wide seats and baskets on the front, and people sit up straight, and I don't think they have gears. And, of course, it's flat there, so you don't have to have any of those things. And they do not wear helmets. So when I was in Amsterdam, I thought, oh, I would like to ride here. That's it. So anyway, all those Amsterdonians, or whatever you call those folks, can't be crazed risk takers by not wearing helmets. They just, they know they're not racing. They're riding in a certain manner. And the laws give them a great deal of leeway. I wish. And, as usual, of course, Americans take something like a bike and they take the pleasure out of it by making it into some intense, uncomfortable race thing where the only way you're going to get pleasure is if you get to a point where, your body chemistry reacts to the stress you're putting your body under and releases endorphins. I can see pleasure on a bike without endorphins, but simply meandering as you pedal and looking and waving and seeing and enjoying the scenery. So, the slow bike movement. If anybody knows of a chapter here in Pittsburgh, PA, let me know. Although I tend to doubt it. There was one other bike thing, though, that I did want to share, and I can't think of it. It came to me while I was talking. Isn't that weird how your brain bifurcates? I mean, I'm talking, I'm saying this thing, but there's this other voice in my head that says, "Oh, and you got to remember to say this and that." So there's two. You're able to have more than one voice in your head at the same time. Sort of like there's somebody interrupt yourself. I don't know. I swear I don't. The bike thing will come back to me because there was something else. And I can't think of it. There also was something in the paper today that I swear to God I had cut out and brought in. And of course I didn't. And it was an odd story that I told myself, I'm not reading this. I don't have time. I've got to be trolling around for news for the show. And this is not news for the show. And yet I found myself getting sucked into the story. It is a front page story in the Post-Gazette today that's interesting in its way about a cemetery that was lost, that was forgotten about. It was a cemetery in Allegheny City, which is now, of course, Pittsburgh, the north side of Pittsburgh. And it was a cemetery that was there in about I don't have the article, 1820s or something. And when PennDOT was building 579, 279, digging around to do this. Now, this brings us to the 1980s. They came up with human bones. And once you find human bones or anything that looks like you're disturbing an archaeological site, the law says, stop. And PennDOT actually employs an archaeologist at more than one, and the archaeologists move in to see what it is you've disturbed. And in this case, they find this cemetery, and the cemetery has hundreds of people buried in it. Every one of those bones and graves had to be meticulously uncovered, yeah, and then replanted someplace else. Here's what freaked me out about this story. If somebody's majoring in archaeology now, right, with the cost of education, wouldn't somebody say archaeology and are you going to be able to get a job? Well, here's the thing in the story that blew my mind. So in 1987 or whenever the hell they were digging, 279, 579, and they found the bones, they called in more than 50 archaeologists. So 50 people with archaeology degrees got work. And they brought in so many because PennDOT had a road to build, and they needed to clear this as fast as they could. And the archaeologists worked 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, gathering these bones and learning as much as they could about the site and all of that. And some of the bones were sent on to the Smithsonian for further, because you can learn things from bones. And here's the term I forgot. If somebody's got a paper in front of them, let me know. This fascinated me. One skeleton was clearly identified as a tailor, I guess. Would it be a tailor? Yeah. Because I think the term was tailor's notch.
You want me to email you the story?
Yeah, you could, yeah. A tailor's notch in his tooth. So at the Smithsonian, they're looking at this skeleton and they're looking at his teeth, and they say this guy was a tailor. Why? Because tailors hold pins in their teeth. Anyone who's ever had a mom try to hem something knows you keep pins in your teeth. And if you do that as your work and you're constantly having pins in your teeth, a pin will eventually create a notch. And archaeologists have learned that that specific kind of a notch would suggest that somebody spent a lot of time with pins in their mouths. That blew me, somehow that just blew me away. That there's so much in this world to know. And every field of study is just so mind-bogglingly full of fascinating information. So this story I told myself I would not read because it's not anything I'm going to talk about. I was drawn to it simply because of the curiosity, first of all, of that many archaeologists finding work in one little place near the 16th Street Bridge in the 1980s because they'd happened upon this cemetery. And then that so much could be learned from bones. I'm sure there was so much more, but it all can't be in the story. But the fact that holding pins in your mouth over a lifetime of work would yield a little notch in a tooth which would be recognized for what it was, and even have a terminology. How many other amazing things are there? Any of you ever took archaeology? You know, there'd be like that kind of forensic stuff where it just blows my mind. Did you send it to me? How come I'm not seeing it?
I sent it to Cullen Show.
Oh, you sent it to Cullen Show. Okay. But I think I pretty much said what I was going to say anyway, whether it's tailor's notch or not. I think it is. Maybe not. But I wasn't intending to go this way, but this sort of retraction you are seeing in higher education these days of the humanities and certain fields of study not being given any respect at all, whole departments being closed down because these jobs don't lead to employment. universities, I don't think, used to operate that way. They didn't care because it was so important that things would lead to knowledge and appreciation. And there is little doubt, and we all know this because at some points in our lives it's come home, bang, to us, that the more we know about something, the more we have knowledge about anything, bones, rocks, flowers, weather, anything, the more pleasure, real pleasure, is to be derived from it. So, anyway, yeah, here it is. Thank you, Jess. I mean, they were pulling out very little thing, coins, buttons, besides the bones. And I don't know if I'm going to find this. It was a pretty long article, but I do want to say that Diana Nelson Jones, who was a reporter, does fascinating work at the Post-Gazette. Her blog, City Walkabout. This is a woman who is an appreciator of history and of the past and of things. And she's forever bringing it home to us in unusual ways. I've never met her, but I am a big, big fan. Here. The Smithsonian study revealed a tailor's notch. Is that what I was calling it? I actually got it right. A tailor's notch in a man's teeth from holding pins and needles between them repeatedly. The cemetery was there from in a time when Allegheny City held only about less than 1,000 people. But it was quickly to grow. Many of the graves were those of babies because infant mortality was huge. Babies and children. But I love the fact that still something like a 8-lane highway, which, of course, I guess is a very necessary thing to get people from here to there, must stop dead in its tracks for the dead. That the present, by law, yields to the past, to respect for the past, to the thirst for knowledge. It's fascinating to me that we got to the point where we appreciated that to make this something that construction stops, that PennDOT stops. I don't care how much and you got the bids out and the crews and the weather's fine and we got a timetable. Sorry. We have 727 graves here. We're stopping. Didn't used to be that way because other construction had occurred in that area since, and they found a sewer pipe had been laid right through one man's skeleton. That would never happen today. Another skeleton's legs were encased in concrete, also construction having just gone right over his remains. But, I don't know, fascinating to me. I learned something new today. A tailor's notch. I bet there are a lot of women a lot of women who sewed their family's clothes who probably have a tailor's notch as well. Anyway, it's better than talking about Egypt, right? Let's take a break, and I'll be right back. Oh, talk one more second because what? It's not coming up?
It's freezing.
It's freezing. She doesn't mean cold. She means, ah! There's an equipment failure. We are, really? That's never happened.
Yeah, it's just not during break time.
Just not during break time. Okay. Well, anyway, I hope you didn't find that of no interest. Okay, so I will cease and desist my talk of bicycles and tailor's notches, but I'm fascinated by them. Chuck writes, you just give me the high sign there, Jess, when you can. I guess it's just my skeptical nature, but when these archaeologists make claims like this person was a tailor, I am so incredibly skeptical. How do they know that notch wasn't from something else? It just seems like so many archaeological conclusions are such stretches of the imagination. I would love for you to invite an archaeologist on the show. I'm sure we can dig one up over at the Carnegie. Well, what? Okay, so if somebody held a toothpick in their mouth all their lives, would that create a notch? I mean, I don't know how they... okay, it'd be worth, asking. How the hell do you know? I mean, maybe they would argue that they don't know it with 100% certainty, but maybe they have enough remains of people where they do get this notch in the tooth, and they have other data, maybe birth and death records from, like in Europe where they were kept very well for a long time, that says that person was a tailor, and you see tailor, and they all have the thing in their tooth, then I can see how... Okay, I understand your skepticism, but on the other hand, I don't think they just make this stuff up out of whole cloth. I'm such a trusting soul myself. Okay, we have Unfrozen. Be back in a sec.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Allen Events, producer of the country's most popular high-end festivals, returns to Walnut Street between South Aiken Avenue and South Negley Avenue in Shadyside. The 16th annual Shadyside, the art festival on Walnut Street, will be held August 24th and 25th, transforming this popular downtown shopping district of Pittsburgh into an outdoor art gallery with an eclectic mix of the country's top established artists as well as new and emerging talent. Admission is free and open to the public. Showtimes for the Shadyside, the art festival on Walnut Street, are Saturday 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sunday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. For more information, go to artfestival.com.
Go to barkbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. This week, great deals on gift cards to SIBA, tickets to PICT's Don Juan, Cadillac Ranch, and Crazy Mocha. Supplies are limited. Barkbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. Barkbargains.com.
Come to Little's for all of your back-to-school needs. Little's has everything for all ages to stay in style for this upcoming school season. Check out the large selection from Doc Marten, Steve Madden, UGG, Clark's, Lely Kelly, New Balance, and much, much more. Don't forget to come visit this season's colorful handbag selection as well. Little Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store, 5850 Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All righty. Sue writes, Lynn, a couple of years ago, my husband and I took a very enjoyable vacation on a bike and barge tour of Holland. Wow. Our group, there were about 20 of us, were the only people we ever saw with helmets on. Yeah. You don't see them. You see people riding. There's moms riding on bikes with like 2 little kids also on the bike. This is their form of transportation. The kids don't have helmets on. The mom doesn't have helmets on. I like that better. I do. I'm sorry. Hello.
Hi, Lynn. It's PJ from Greensburg.
Hi, PJ.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Well, the tailor's notch does not just appear after they die.
No, it would be, no, of course not. It's being made as they live.
Yeah, well, that's how you know that a tailor, that mark is from a tailor.
Here.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It's not like it's complete speculation. I mean, I'm sure that over the years of people being tailors, they noticed that tailors get this notch while they were still alive.
Yes,
and
of course.
then saw them.
Okay, but what Chuck is saying, it is conceivable that a similar ridge can end up in a tooth, and that person was not a tailor.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean there is a bit of speculation, but
you got to think. Yeah.
There's also a thing called. When you talked about that, I started looking, and there's a thing called a tailor's bunion, also.
Huh. Why would there be a tailor's bunion?
They say that because of the way tailors sat, that there was. I would imagine that's probably more speculation than the tailor's notch, but I'm sure there's that for every
profession.
Yeah, profession.
I mean, because of the way, yes, you use your body.
Maybe not something that's as physical as obviously, physically obvious as a tailor's notch, but I'll bet you. There are our bodies show signs of all that kind of thing.
I bet that's true. So you're an artist. Do you think there's they could find out that you were an artist because they'll look in your bones and find certain evidence of chemicals that are in paint, in oil paint, or that kind of thing, or do you think stuff like that?
Well, yeah, and where I can tell you that they would find it is on my and not so much anymore, but it's been left with me for many years on my finger from writing. I have a large callus and it's not from writing; it's from drawing.
You got like a bump,
kind of a knot on my finger from it.
I have one too, but I think mine is from writing, I guess.
Well, so that may be less of an artist and more of, as people move away from actually physically writing with an implement, their thumbs will start to show it rather than their finger from holding a pencil or a pen.
Well, when they dig up bones or even mummies, I mean, you can have really, really old skeletal remains, and they can find all kinds of things. Diet, what this person probably ate, what they may have died of, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's so much science now.
Well, and the remarkable thing is they can place where they, not necessarily where they were buried, because that may not be where they grew up, but they can place where they grew up from chemicals up in their bones.
Right.
I don't understand why you didn't think this would be a great topic for your show.
I don't know. I mean, we've gotten so into news and,
Because I guarantee, I sure really feel if you took a poll of your listeners, they would say, yes, talk about this. Talk about it. It's remarkable. It's fascinating. There are so many aspects. That's why I enjoy when you and Tom get together and talk so much, because I have a tendency to talk about the esoteric.
That's right. Well, thank you. Maybe I'll rediscover that.
And one more quick thing. I have recently taken up bike riding within the last few months, and I ride in a large cemetery. It's wonderful. You can pace yourself. You can enjoy the surroundings. You don't have to be worried about being run down. So it's actually a really nice place to ride.
That sounds good.
Observe the scenery. So, okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Except all the cemeteries around my house.
They don't let you.
They don't let you? Yeah.
Not the one in
Homewood Cemetery. I think Allegheny doesn't let riders in? Oh, geez. Why not? It's sort of like a park.
My old roommate got reprimanded for riding her bike.
Oh, I know they kick the dogs out, but bikers? By the way, I found myself down there by Costco in the waterfront where there was that little that story the other day about, and they put up these stop signs on the bike trail, so that bikers are supposed to stop like where the driveway, the exits out of the Costco parking lot are. Only one. I saw one bicyclist stop. Everybody else blew right through him. Hello, caller. Hi.
Hey, Lynn. George from Mount.
Hi, George.
You hit on a subject that I was involved with a little bit myself. There was an abandoned German cemetery in Drevoesburg about 5 years ago, and I went digging, not in the cemetery. I went down to Drevoesburg to the regular cemetery there and was doing some family tree research. Long story short, I ran into a centennial group that was doing a history of the area and everything, and they had located an abandoned German cemetery, St. John's. It was connected with St. John's Lutheran Church, that had been left to naught for 100 years.
Wow.
And I got connected with this, and I found relatives there. And I found relatives then that were taken from this abandoned cemetery and moved over to Richland Cemetery, which is the big regular cemetery in Drevoesburg. But the point I wanted to make was that in finding artifacts in like an abandoned cemetery, you can find these archaeologists find other things too, other sources of information to verify stuff. What we did was we found like about 7 headstones left that had been toppled and everything, and we did rubbings off of them. And it just so happened my wife is German, and she was able to translate them. And we got names off of them and dates. Well, it just so happened also that the church, which was folding at the time also, St. John's was closing after 150 years, had some old church records, handwritten records that were fading, that were 150 years old, and we found names in there, and we were able to translate that book. It was handwritten in German also, and we found details of the deaths and life of these people in this book, and collated it with the names on some of the headstones. And we were able to find out that there were about 150 early founders of Drevoesburg and McKeesport that were buried there. Some of them had been moved to Richland. And so it was, we pieced together stuff, and that's how you can determine stuff also. I mean, details we never expected that was written in there, and etchings, a ink etching that had been left from 1860 that detailed people's homes, and they correlated with the people who were in this abandoned cemetery. So I would guess that I'll bet you any money, I want to get a copy of that article, I'll bet you any money that, knowing Allegheny City was settled by German immigrants also, that they had church records or something. Because the damn Germans write everything down.
They're meticulous record keepers.
Right.
Yes,
so I'll bet you any money these archaeologists correlated some of that, the bones that they found and stuff, with some kind of records or some other information. And that's how you come up with conclusions, too.
Yes.
So it's fascinating. You can find out about your family tree. You can get a hint of archaeology. You find out about records. You find out about intimate details of people's lives. It's a great adventure, really.
It sounds like it. You were sleuths, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, and heart-rendering too.
Sure.
When my wife translated the writings on the tablets on the headstones, they were very prolific back then. The tablet was full of the yearnings and the loss of these people for their loved ones. And like you said, a great number of them are often children.
Yeah.
And it makes it personal that these were living, breathing people at the time, too.
Right. And it is. The cemetery that I was speaking of is a cemetery from the First German Protestant Evangelical Church.
That's the Lutherans, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Hey, on the bike thing,
Yeah.
get a Segway. That's what I'm...
No.
Oh, yeah.
No.
It'll go very slow.
No.
You don't have to
I don't
sit.
like drawing attention to myself like that. It just looks
You're not drawing
goofy.
attention.
Yes, you
They're
are.
all over the place.
No, every time I see someone on a Segway, I think, no.
That's because the media and people have mangled the image of it. But it goes about 12, 13 miles.
I've been on
15
one.
miles.
I have ridden one.
Yeah, and they're nice.
Yeah,
They're nice.
it was.
Cruise along.
Yeah.
By that time, you'll have arthritis in your back, and you'll be limping anyway.
All right, you. Goodbye.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye. Jess is with me on the Segway.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You see those Segway tours downtown?
You know what they're called?
What are they called?
Segs in the city.
Segs in the city?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
It's
Come on, that's cute.
No, it's not.
That's the name of the business, Segs in the City?
I think they have one here. They have one in New York. I'm not sure.
Oh, God. Okay, here's a... Wait a minute. Oh, speaking of the devil, Sokolowski has checked in. I have found this morning's initial topics to be fascinating. Whoa, thank you, Mr. Sokolowski. It is through the minutiae of the everyday that we learn the most. Some historian once opined that history is writ, quote, not in the events of warfare or the actions of a king or president, but rather in the contents of a single human teardrop. Now, how could you say some historian and quote it that totally and not tell us what historian? Do you really know that quote? Like by heart? But thank you, Tom. No, I agree with you. It's stuff, it's human, and it, you know, anything that connects us. Oh, well, speaking of that, this is an item out of South Africa. I'm going to get to a sort of ethical issue from it. This happened earlier this month. A couple named Graham and Cheryl Anley were yachting off the coast of South Africa, and their yacht hit a reef, and the yacht started to sink. And so they clamored to get off the sinking yacht. Cheryl got tangled up in her safety line or something, snagged on something. And it says here, I'll just quote so I don't overstate. Cheryl's safety line snagged on something, trapping her. Instead of freeing his wife and getting her to shore, Graham grabbed Rosie, their Jack Russell Terrier. Jeff likes that. And it says he got Rosie to shore, and then he returned for his wife. And it says here, all are doing fine. Okay. It also parenthetically says that one media report did say that Cheryl had insisted that he take Rosie first. Who knows? No! Get Rosie! I'll make it! Get Rosie! Save Rosie! He saved Rosie, he came back, got her, and everybody's fine. But this brings up an interesting question. And it's a question that psychologists have looked into quite a bit. And Americans in particular are besotted with their pets. And I have pointed out sometimes, it really sort of, it sickens me when I think about it. Americans spend more on health care for their pets than is lavished on the vast majority of human beings in the world, you know. I mean, what we do for our pets, for dogs and cats and birds and fish, I mean, human beings don't get treated that well. And there's a psychologist named Hal Herzog who has written a book called Some We Love, Some We Hate, Some We Eat. why it's so hard to think straight about animals. That's an interesting topic in and of itself. He also points out that the Nazis, while rounding up Jews, had strict laws that guaranteed that the pets of the Jews be humanely treated as the Jews were shipped off in cattle cars to their death. Jess can't even read. Jess is speechless. I was looking at me like, what? Yeah, I got it right here. So, anyway, this leads into an experiment in which people. It was a study that was carried out in, I think, Great Britain or Canada. I don't know where that school is. So people in the study are told of a hypothetical scenario in which a bus is hurtling out of control, bearing down on a dog and a human being. You can save one, the dog or the human. Which do you save? And do you know what most people said? The dog. No, they didn't say the dog. They said, well, it depends. I need more information. If it's a human being I don't know, but it's the dog I love, I'm rescuing the dog and letting the human being die. If it's a sibling or a close friend and it's a strange dog, I'll rescue the human. But when people started considering their own dog versus people they did not know or that they were less connected with, they let the human die and they went for the dog. This says an astonishing 46% of women voted to save their dog over a foreign tourist. So anyway, I don't know what that means. And here's what I hope. I am never in a position to be tested in that regard. Do you think we've unfrozen and can take our final break?
Yeah.
Okay, we got to do that, and I'll be right back.
Oh my God.
It's
after this. Les Ludwig, your independent, self-financed, clean candidate for mayor of Pittsburgh. You've heard the saying, same old. If we don't change what we're doing, we can only expect the same results. Let's look at what the Democratic Party leadership of your lifetime is asking you to do on Election Day. They want you to forget that they and Ravenstall have not lived up to minority contracts and the jobs involved in it. If government promises work and jobs and wants to leave it for the next candidate, will it ever get done? How can we trust Peduto and especially the leadership when they continue to act this way? Are they hiding something worse than Harper's misdeeds? Vote November 5th and remember, same old. Embrace change and work willingly with it. Think outside the party's box. Make Les Ludwig your mayor and join his march to clean government and keeping promises.
It's Shadyside Arts Festival time. Don't forget to mark your calendars for the 16th annual Shadyside Arts Festival, August 24th and 25th. And check out the newest Fiats from No. 1 Cochran Fiat. Pick up this week's Pittsburgh City paper for more information. Available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania. And on the web at pghcitypaper.com. And on your smartphone with GPS-enabled listings at citypapermobile.com.
I didn't know about chronic obstructive pulmonary disease until I took the wheel and lent my support to Drive for COPD. Help Americans take action against this leading cause of death by logging on to driveforcopd.org to learn more. I'm Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, and I drive for COPD.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
I have to tell you that this is the 4th anniversary of this program. Who knew? Jess did, and I just got, and the producer before Jess, Tracy, just emailed, and it's her birthday as well. Happy birthday, Tracy. Yeah. Isn't that odd? I don't know. I wouldn't know when the show started and I said to Jess, how many years? I don't know. And Jess said 3 or 4. It was 4. Well, I've been having a heck of a good time in these 4 years, I must tell you. Anyway, happy birthday to us. Ansel writes, Lynn, speaking of Tom Sokolowski, he was prominently featured in an article in the Sunday Tribune Review yesterday regarding the authenticity of a supposed Warhol silk screening. Yes, I saw that article, and Tom was prominently featured, obviously, as the former director of the Warhol Museum. And they were auctioning this thing off and thinking it would go for about $200,000, and Tom was saying, there's no way this thing is authentic. I think you I hope the sellers don't come after you, Tom. Jeez. Also, Dexter says, Lynn, if you do start a poll, count me as loving this kind of discussion. The reason why I love you and have been listening for years is because of your almost Seinfeldian way of looking at the world. I still remember the flap about how high the then St. Paul's Cathedral girls were wearing their skirts. And you were very correct about that. Let's not go there again. I ended up in the... that was the ugliest thing that I ever... Of all the things where I caused a stir, that was the stir that still reverberates. I was persona non grata in the Catholic community, which is obviously a rather huge community in town, by mentioning that the girls' skirts were... And to this day, I still get people who it's just amazing how people got enraged about that. Anyway, hello,
Hello, my darling.
Hello,
Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Number one, we all know how nasty those Catholic schoolgirls are.
No, don't you start it. The bishop himself came at me in an editorial. I mean, please. Bishop
well, the lady bishop doth protest too much, as they say. No, it's interesting. The reason I called in is that article, what you said is partly true, because what has happened recently is that in the art world, because people have all these ideas, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Warhol or a Rembrandt or whatever, proposed Warhol or Rembrandt, that if a person with authority, in this case myself, has evidence and says, well, I just don't think it's Warhol for X, Y, and Z reasons, said seller can come after you. And so it's like appearing in court as a witness or writing an amicus brief. You are dashed because you're supposedly stopping that person from recognizing and realizing, his cash flow.
Yeah, a fortune maybe for him. I mean, they're expecting $200,000, and you put the kibosh on that.
Well, and also you think that's the part of it that's ludicrous is that, right, these sorts of things have happened throughout history, but very, very, very intermittently, and yet these people think they're going to some, little dirty place in eastern Pennsylvania, finding this. All of a sudden, they'll, go to the death to prove just because they feel they know more than the experts do.
Yeah. Well, do you need any muscle, as they say?
No, I'm not worried about it. But it's when I was still at the museum, we had a couple of cases where one drawing in particular was a little bit more potentially a Warhol, although we didn't think it was. But this person went around. I'll tell you a terribly grotesque story. This person found that it was possible sometimes to scrape the surface of, let's say, a piece of paper or canvas and potentially detect DNA of the artist who maybe had touched that surface. And then if you could find another source of that artist's DNA, you could compare it. And this lunatic discovered that we had various bits of Warhol's clothing, some of which were his undergarments, and he had somehow learned that some of the undergarments, shall we say, were soiled. And he wanted us to take swabbings of said soiled drawers. And we said, not on your life. And then we talked to a lawyer who said, Mr. Warhol, although dead, has the right to not have his underpants scrubbed with a swab. I mean, this man was a lunatic.
Wow.
So,
God, there's strange things going on in this world, I'll tell you.
So you've gone from dead dogs and bicycles and tailor's notches to soiled undergarments of world stars. Bye-bye.
Bye, you. See you on Thursday. Oh, my gosh, Tracy's back and said, wait, is this 5 years? She's thinking it's 5 years. Oh, she's not sure. Maybe it's 5. You're not sure. Who the heck knows? Who knows? I'm the last one to know. I never know any dates. I don't see people say, well, when did you start working in radio? I said, I don't know. I remember Doug Hirth used to tell me. He, knew the date. I mean, and you started the show at blah, and you started working there at blah, and I don't even know the year. I can't even do a ballpark figure. That's so odd.
Hello?
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like Clarence.
Oh, yes, it is.
Hi, Clarence.
Hi. I just wanted to say that your anniversary is also on the same day of birth of Bill Clinton and Gene Roddenberry from Star Trek fame.
Yes.
Oh, and me. I forgot about that.
Oh, it's your birthday, too.
Yeah. When you said it was your anniversary, I said, I didn't know her anniversary was on my birthday.
There you go. Technically, I think it was Sunday, yesterday, but so.
Oh well, then.
No. So it's your birthday?
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Why, thank you. Very few people know that, except they know it now. But
yeah.
Prior to that, very
know
few
it
people.
now.
I thought it was cool because I always think it's cool that I was born on the same day as Bill Clinton and Gene Roddenberry.
That's
Especially
pretty cool.
Gene Roddenberry.
Well, and there's probably even more incredible people that are born on that date that you don't even know.
Here's the thing. You have a Facebook page, and I always tell you when people's birthdays are.
Yeah.
I have 6 Facebook friends whose birthdays are on the same day as mine.
Wow.
It's amazing. I tell people we're holiday babies. They say there are no holidays in August. I say go back 9 months.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Go back 9 months. Well, I'm glad.
And I also enjoyed the day, too. I did know the topics and stuff like that. I was going to get on, talk about the humanities, but I'm looking at the clock.
Oh, I'm glad somebody is. Yeah, you're right. Hey, you know what? I'm so glad that your parents enjoyed their holidays that year.
Yeah, I'm sure that. I'm glad they did too.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm now a half a century. I'm officially 50.
You are 50. Oh, it's a biggie.
Yeah.
Clarence, happy birthday. That's a great one. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. It's a good decade. Okay, bye.
I will. All right, bye.
Been there, done it. Been there and done it. Jess, this is for you. Dave writes, one thing I like most about your show is the giggling from your producer in the back. And when are you expanding to 2 or 3 hours? I don't know. One of the reasons I like this so much is it is only 1 hour. It's barely working for me. And I'm an old woman now. So I'm letting my hair grow gray. You see I'm gray? I love it. I just love it. Just going to finish up the emails, if you don't mind. Lynn, I have a specialized crossroad bike that is really nice. I don't know what that is. I hate helmets, too, and have never worn spandex, anything. I really enjoy the bike paths and feel safe on them, but I have gone across the bridges to downtown, but only on weekends. There is a restaurant on the south side that caters to bicyclists. that I want to check out. Do you know that one? Over the Bar? And where is that? Over the Bar? Oh, it's on East Carson. I'm sure they have information on the different clubs that are out there. I bet there's not a slow club in Pittsburgh. I don't know. Well, geez, I'm having too much fun on this one, too. This is so much nicer than talking about all that awful stuff. I'll try to do it much more often. I will. Sometimes, though, yes, let's do it. And you political junkies, there's plenty of other places where you can get your fix. I just can't, but whatever. Probably tomorrow will be all politics or something. I'll try, though, to do more of this. I enjoy it much more, too. And if we do stuff like this, I could do 2 hours. I don't know if Jess can stay, though.
Yeah, I can.
Could you? Mm-hmm. Okay. So thank you all very much. Thank you. Truly. And happy birthday to everybody. Gosh, everybody. Happy birthday, happy anniversary. And we'll do it again tomorrow. Have a great day.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.